Welcome to another episode of Life Stories of Marty. I'm Marty here in Melbourne, and boy, we've got a great guest. John Morrison, aka Seanie Morrissey, the Black Suitcase. Grew up in Limerick, served in the SAS, and went to industrial school that people might not know, but without me carrying on, you see the book coming up here. Let's cross over to Canada and have a chat with Sean.
A lot of countries.
And I was going to say, well, you're in Canada at the moment, but look, we've looked at and I've listened to your bio on my intro. But Sean, I want to know the man behind this beautiful book, and very, I must say, from my heart, it's was a journey of survival that I see that you've done. So I'm just going to let you go off. This is your life story. So tell us about growing up in Limerick, and also please bring in your beautiful mum as a sole parent. And back then, that would have been a big job.
It was. To her it was. And I was the eldest of the family at that time. Well, later on, of course. Like I said, I was born in 1935 in August 29th, which is 2 weeks from now, 1990. I was the firstborn in the estate called the Island Field at that time, now called St. Mary's Park. And I went to school at Cray Lane and Baldy Maguire. This was when I was getting a little old now. I was about 7 or 8 years old. And Baldy Maguire, the headmaster, because I missed school a couple of times, he hauled me in front of his classroom, which was 6th class, top of the garden staircase upstairs. And he beat me with a bloody, what the hell it was, a stick of some sort. And I was black and blue down my back. And I went home to my mother, and we were standing around the table to eat. Lord, it was 4 of us, I think, at the time. It was 5 eventually. But anyway, there was 4 of us there, and my mother said, "Seanie, sit down." I said, "No, ma'am, I'd rather stand." I said, "Sit down." I said, "No." And she came around and tried to push me down. She held me a winch. I said, "What's up here?" She pulled me Gansey up, and she looked at me back, and it was striped. I said, "Who did that?" I said, I didn't understand anything, so eventually she got it over me. I said, "Baldy Maguire." "Why?" And I didn't want to help out in school. So anyway, she got that out of me too. I said, "I'm in school." So she said, "I'll come in the morning, I'll take you up to Cray Lane." And she had an old coat on. The bloody thing was hanging on the door forever. And we got to the school, up the staircase she hauled me. Bang, bang, bang. She knocked on Baldy's door in 6th class. And he'd come out with a big bald head. He was about 6 feet tall. And my mother turned me around. She pulled the Gansey up. And she said, "Did you do this to my son?" And she said, "Yes." Before he could finish, she had a milk bottle in her pocket. In those days, the milk, big bottles of milk. And she crashed it over his head. I should got 3 months in jail for that.
Who did?
My mother. 3 months for splitting Baldy's.
That was an expensive bottle of milk.
No. So anyway, my aunt looked after us until she got out of jail, and Nora, and eventually moved to go home. So anyway, I went on from there, and she took me out. I was kicked out of school from to begin with, and she tried to get me into another school, and they said no, they couldn't get me in there. So I was wandering around the streets for a while. I was begging for food, pieces of bread, pennies, anything. And well, in this road, I used to go out there all the time, where all the rich people live. And I'd go door to door knocking. Have you got a penny or a piece of bread, please? They would give me something. And I get to one house, and the woman gave me half a chicken cooked. And I took that half a chicken, and I went down the long driveway, and I put it under a tree once I went to the rest of the house. I'll pick up. I went from house to house after that, and I came back with a few pennies I got, and I went back to the tree to get my chicken, and there was a dog there eating the bloody thing. So I nearly killed that bloody dog. So I left there and went home, and I gave the money to my mother. I always did. But that was the eldest, like I said.
Wasn't that part of it? Was that part of it back then when you earned money? You actually did it for the mother first. And Seanie, can you just move closer to your camera, to the microphone?
Sure.
If you don't mind, yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's what you did back then. Now, I just want to go back a little bit, just a little bit in your life. Your mum was obviously a beautiful and for a single parent. Did you ever find out, if you don't mind asking, did you ever know who your father was?
Oh yeah, he was. My father was. He was with me until I was about 8 years old.
Right. Yeah.
With us, and he was always in England though. He was working in England, like all Irishmen would over the border, was going over to England to work because of the war. The war was coming up, and he was working in the shipyard in Barrow-in-Furness in Lancashire, and he came home the last time, and he said to my mother, "And who's this little girl?" It was my sister Frances. She's dead now. She died. God love her. And she said, "Who's this?" And she said, "You don't know your own daughter," she said. And you don't know Sean either, I suppose. He was mad. And anyway, he was drunk. And he went out the door. And I was sitting on the door. And I was bloody crying with all the shouting that was going on. And I was sitting outside. And he walked past me. And that was the last of his tale that day. And he went back to England. And he used to send us £2 a week, and I used to pay the rent for the house. And he stopped sending. So we were evicted, we were kicked out of the house in the Island Fields, St Mary's Park. We lived at number 76 in Dyker Street. And we didn't know where to go, my mother. And we left the house with the frame of the bed. That's what we had from the house, that's all we had. And we found an old abandoned butcher shop. And we moved in there. And it was next to Mossieri's courtyard. And there was rats all over the bloody place, because it was an old abandoned butcher shop. And we had a mattress, and we then put that bed to the top. So we just threw the mattress on the floor, and we all slept on the mattress. And the rats would come onto the bloody mattress. And there was, the butcher shop, there was an old knife, rusty knife, that was there, and I had it by the side of the bed, by me. And the rat came up over by my breed that was lying there, and the wall was damp, it was like soft. That's how watery it was. So I threw the knife at the bloody rat and pinned it to that wall.
Not good for the rat.
No, I thought, what a bloody good shot that was. Anyway, my mother then, because my dad had given up with us, she met a boyfriend, Joe O'Mara. So Joe moved in with us. And We thought, well, I don't know him, and I don't know anything. So he had me go outside of Limerick and bring a bag with us. And he went to his relatives. They had a farm. And
Shawnee, can you I can hear you, but just put your voice down closer to the microphone.
okay.
I can hear. Yeah, no, I can hear you, just for the listeners. Yeah, go ahead, Sean. Sorry, I'm fascinated here.
No, okay. So anyway, we went out, we picked up all these turnips, I don't know, some cabbage in the bag.
Yeah.
And of course, he was walking, and he said to me, carry it down your back. So I had to, I was bandy-legged, carrying the bloody thing. We walked back into Limerick, and on the way through, there were some gypsies on the side of the road where we were living near there. And they were shouting at me. And George said, like, "F off." So we did. And got home and got just the home. And then I was still out of school. So I went to the market and I used to help the farmers with the purchases. We used to help plant, kinds of plants. And I would carry them to the horse and cart, and they would give me a couple of shillings, and that always went to my mother. And I had a good day many a time at the market. And then I took a job on with riding a bike, delivering groceries. I forget who that was with. And after that, I kind of kept going and worked in a bloody kind of a factory, not a factory, but a storage place for chickens. And
Yeah.
I used to pack the chickens into these boxes, and that lasted a little while. Then I got fed up. I was run away from home. So I walked past Barrington's Hospital one day, and I seen a bike lying leaning against the rail. And I didn't know it was started on these bikes. Like, just sit up and bring me handlebars on it. And I was only small, very small at that. And anyway, I thought I'll take it for a spin. I took the bike and I couldn't get my backside up on there. I couldn't sit on the saddle. So I had my legs in between the bars. And I sidled away there. And there was, what do you call it? All over my legs. There was that oil. And 32 miles later, I was at Tarbert, way down at Limerick. And I stopped and I was wet through, and I was hungry, and I was thirsty, and I thought, oh no, everywhere was shut. I walked up to this police station, climbed up the steps, there was 3 or 4 steps up one, and went in. And I said, I'm lost. And they said, whose bike is that? I said, it's his father's. So I said, okay. They said, get in there. They put me in the cell, and they gave me a big mug of tea and a sandwich. And I said, sleep there now for the night. We'll take you back to Limerick in the morning. So anyway, they did that, and he got me up in the car, put the bike in the back of the police car, and where do you want to go? They said, where's your house? I didn't know him. That's my Aunt Nora's. Saying that. So where was she living? I know, down Munson Street. So he took it down there, and the bike on the right of him. He said to me, whose bike is that? I'm getting in trouble now. So anyway, they nailed me for that. They said, oh, it's not your father's bike. So anyway, they wrote a notice out, gave it to Nora, and I was a trophy court in front of the judge in Limerick when I was due, which was soon afterwards. I think it was about the 8th of February. Anyway, Judge Beaton, the hangman, we called him the hanging judge. He was a bugger. And he took me up there to this courthouse. My mother had left already. She was at the University of Dublin. Nora looked after me. And the kids, she looked after them too.
So just when you're saying, I'm just popping up a picture there, but can we just pause and take a break for 1 second? What I did.
Okay, so the judge in Limerick, I didn't really understand what they were sentencing me for. But it's in school or stealing a bloody bike. So he sentenced me to, it was like 3 years nearly. They sent me to 3 years in Glynn. And everybody's terrified about Glynn because the mother used to say, you do that one more time and I'll bloody have you sent to Glynn. It's crap or so. He sent me to Glynn, and the guard took me out into the police car, and we drove the 30 odd miles to Glynn. And my life took a whole change from there on.
And Shawnee, for our listeners all over the world, so that was what they called it was an industrial school.
It was an industrial school, yeah. It was
yeah, so what was an industrial school for someone who's never experienced that?
It's for people who, or boys in this case, there was 240 of us, for boys who had no parents, who were abused, too poor, and only a few of us who had broken the law. That was the Christian brothers to look after us, and it was all religion. I mean, they didn't learn anything. It was like, I thought I was going to be a shoemaker. Because they put me, after I'd been in school for the first, until I was nearly 14. From 13 and a half to 14 I was in the classroom. And then they sent me to the shoemaker shop, where I was stitch uppers and stuff like that. So I just sit there all day, stitching uppers for boots, for our boots. We make our own boots. We had our own tailor, and we had a bed spring shop. The boys used to have to make their own bed sheet for the bed. And I was there for the rest of my time, from 14 to 16, stitching uppers for boots. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be a bloody shoemaker shop when I get out.
And Shawnee, what was your... I can see you laughing. This is what I love about your sense of humor. Obviously got you through the art of the life of survival. What was your worst moment? What was your best moment being there? As in, I mean by the best, did you meet nice people or, people you get up with? And then we'll dovetail into what got you to go into the British Army.
Yeah. Anyway, I got to know some great people now, some boys that I still keep in touch with to this day. Or still alive, that is. Jim Kavanagh. There's a couple of more. I kept in touch with them. So, what was it? I think, the brother Murphy. He was a Dublin man, and he told me that I used to sing. I had a good voice, and he had me singing in the choir, and eventually he told me that, I don't know, he must have been listening to me prayers. He said, Johnny, he said, he said, a lover of God or the Virgin Mary will never perish. And he had me singing all over the place. I used to play football, soccer, and all on there. He called me off of the bloody soccer pitch over to the side, and he'd have his thing with it, and he'd strike it on the bar, and he'd listen to it, and say, "Ah," and he'd start singing, have me singing.
And Johnny, what was it? What was your favourite song that you liked to sing?
Honest and jellyfish.
Well, come on, give us a tune there.
Oh, I can't sing on it. Honest and jellyfish, eat honest hominy. Not honest jellyfish, the good is turning new. Oh, raise me Robbie Lee, man do cat domino. Oh, Papa, Papa, there boots a tune. Oh, that's it. That's what I was saying.
Brilliant. You still got a voice, my friend. But carry on with your story. And I want to know more now because we're halfway through the show, but I want to get more into, first of all, I admire you. I'm in awe of you, what you do, and your book is fantastic, which we'll have a quick chat at the end of that. But what like, with poverty and everything, and your poor mother, was there any cases, did your mother ever think just to give up and commit suicide, or were you ever in that position that like not just getting through it, and I'm probably speaking from my other side as well?
Well, when my mother, she left for England, it was in May, I remember, and the kids, my brother and my sisters, three of them, that was Breed included. Breed had died at my grandmother's, and that's where they were sent. They were sent to my grandmother's, and of course I was in Flynn, and my mother was on her way to England with Joe, her boyfriend. Anyway, she came into Flynn, and she told me she was going away to England. And she gave me that suitcase I called the Black Suitcase.
Yep.
That was the suitcase. I've still got it. That's the suitcase I had. She gave me. And there's notes and letters in it and everything else. And I still got those letters too, like old letters to a family in America, in New York, Long Island, New Jersey, and her sisters and her brothers. And gave me that, anyway, the black suitcase, the suitcase, and off she went. And my father, when I reached 16, and the brothers wanted to know where I was going and who was going to come for me. And my father came back from England, went to my grandmother's, and came up to meet me at the Lynn. And he took me to my grandmother's. But I was only there about maybe a week or two. And he decided to take me to England. So he took me on the ship from Dublin. We sailed from Dublin, and it was that was quite a ride on that bloody boat. We went up here one minute and then splashed down into the bloody Irish Sea. And anyway, we finished up over in England. And I went and stayed with my cousins in Manchester. And they were just fantastic, that family. They still are. Well, Willie was my uncle, and he almost raised me. Anyway, I had to get a job, and the dad said, I worked at Vickers Armstrong, shipbuilding and engineering, and he says, I'll take you there to be interviewed. You want to get me in this, I'll get you in there as an apprentice of some sort. So he took me up there, and up into the office upstairs, and I sat there, and they wanted to give me an interview to see what it was like, what I'm like. And they asked me all these questions, and they said, "Are you educated?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Which school did you go to?" I said, "St. Joseph."
You liar.
Then St. Joseph said, "School for boys." How I put it. And I said, "Oh, good. What grade did you get?" I said, "Oh, I got it. Very high grade." So anyway, give me the job anyway. They said, "You're just pregnant." You turned up Monday morning and go down to the plumber shop in Vickers, and I did. And I was 16 and a half then. So I went out to the plumber shop. I was there, and I worked with old Bob Gerard. And old Bob, he was in one wooden leg, and he worked on the lead. And he was very good with lead. He was pouring lead and stuff like that, and hammering it up. And one day he had the torch, the little torch, the lead burning, and he hung it over the rail, and he didn't realise it was against his wooden leg. Bob's wooden leg caught fire. And he looked down, and I said, "Spelled Bob, honey, quick, hold it up." So I lifted his leg up to me. He said, "Pull." I did, and the foot came off. It was on the worm's. I had his bloody foot in there, and I dropped it. He said, "Johnny, got that leg go, like, pull it off." I did. And he got it, pulled it out. Anyway, that was Bob.
Pull it out. Now, just moving on a little bit, Seanie, tell me about why, and go into a little bit about joining the forces. And I know you were SES. Oh, yeah. Don't need to go anything that you don't want to talk about that's not in your book.
Yeah.
But tell me some stories why.
Yeah, after that, I met Peggy in Darwin Furnace when I was 17. Like about a half a year later, when I was in the plumber shop. And we were met at St. John's Ambulance Dance on the Strand. And we were kind of, not like, we were just courting. So we started courting. And she was taller than me then. I was so small, I was less than 5 feet. So anyway.
I love that word, courting. I haven't heard that for a long time, my friend. We have a different name on it now. I picked up. Yeah.
Yeah, so time went on, and I finished up, Peg and I, at 18, we got engaged. So 2 years later, there was. 3 years later, and the army called me up, and I said, "Okay." He said to me, that's how he said to me, the recruiter said, he said, "You don't have to go in the army." He said, "You're Irish." And I said, "If I'm bloody good enough to live in your country, I'm good enough to fight for it." I was so bloody mad. Typical Irish. So anyway, he said, "Okay, good. I like your identity." What do you mean, sir? Whatever. Anyway, I told Peg, and she said, "Well, before we were married now," she said, "If you don't marry me," she said, "I won't wait for you if you go in the army." I said, "Oh."
And which army were you going into that time? Was that
the King's Royal Regiment they called me up for?
Yeah. And Seanie, if I can just say to you, it's lovely, raise your voice a bit more when you're talking to me.
Okay.
I like that. Come on now. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. Please continue. I love this.
So anyway, I said to Peg, she's a Protestant. You know, her mother came from Northern Ireland. Anyway, I said, "You're a Protestant. I'm a Catholic." And she said, "Well, I'll become a Catholic." I said, "Oh, okay." And I'll stop you. So we went to see the bishop in Barrow, Fergus, and we asked him, I said, look, I'm going in the army, Father. I said, and we want to get married. I said, and Peg is a Protestant, and she wants to become a Catholic. He said, fine. And I said, he said, I'm going in the army. I said, in another 2 or 3 weeks, that's when I have to go in. That's called up. And he said, well, he said, after she's taken all the lessons, and that's going to be a couple of months. I thought, he said, that's not good enough. So I looked at Peg and said, no. I said, well, okay, let's go. Let's go to one of those offices here. Said, cost 7 sixpence anyway. To get a license, to get married. Anyway, I gave him 7 sixpence, and they married us right there. And off I went. I'm married now. Peg was already, I didn't know at the time, but she was already pregnant. And off I went into the King's Old Royal Regiment in Lancaster, in England. And after I was doing some exercises, running, and I did a 5-mile run. 5-minute mile running. I was anyway, the instructor said to me, I watched you, he said, why don't you apply for the SAS? I said, what's that? He said, it's another, to go all over the world, he said. I said, what's the money like? He said, they pay good money. I said, oh. I said, put my name down. So they did. They put my name down for the yes. And I had to go for training. They actually called up, and they said, okay, come down to wherever it was. We had to go to a place to train and see what we would like. If you passed that, then you could go into the SCF. So anyway, we went down there, and I went down there. I got off the train, and I stood on the platform with my bags and that. Heavy bag. Kit bag, the whole bit. My suit, my black suitcase. And I was waiting around, and 2 fellas come up to me. And they said, Trooper Morrison, Sean Morrison. I said, yeah. And said, you come up to the camp? Yeah. So I was ready to throw my bags into the back of the truck. They were in like the Jeep. And they said, go up that hill. A bloody hill was like Mount Everest. Said, go up the hill there at the top there, you'll find an office up there. And they took off. And they left me standing there on the bloody hill. And they went up the hill. I'm bloody marching up the hill. I go up and I find it, and I go in this office. And they said, well, go in there and wait. I did. And then somebody came out and said, oh, you sleep in here. There's a cabin. So I slept in there. There's some old guys showed up. I think it was about 12 guys showed up altogether whilst I was waiting there. And took us out, and they started putting us through all places. And I think of the 12 of them, there were 7 of us only passed. It was a tough course.
I was going to say, Shawnee, was it difficult in the British Army to be Irish with an accent like yourself?
Well, there was a little bit of times when I had to sort that out myself with another fella when he called me a little Irish bastard.
He obviously knew you very well, didn't he?
Yeah. He did. Anyway, I did that. A couple of guys who did that and said that. Anyway, we went through all those places, which was very, very rough, tough. And like I said, there was 7 of us got through, and we had to go to our Malay, to the Malayan jungle. We were going over there, and we did take off, landed over there. We went through different countries, touched down India, was the last one. And then we got into Kuala Lumpur. And from there, they gave us guns to get on the train. We went by train up to Wardyburn Camp, it's called. And we had a rifle. They thought, what have we got a rifle for on the train? Because the terrorists attacked the train. That's why. And you've got to fight them off. Don't you? Don't we really? We got up there all right, okay, no problem. And Wardyburn, and I was there for a while, and we were told we were going in on an operation. And I didn't have a bloody clue. So we went in into the jungle. They said, how long are we going to be there? We said, a month. We're going there for a month. Way! Yeah. So anyway, we went into the jungle and looking for terrorists. Like, there was 7 of us, that's all. 7 troop B squadron. I was 7 troop. And we finished up coming out after a month, and we lost a little weight because it's all we had to eat was this curry and rice, and we had that like every day, and we used to make it ourselves, like frying those pans we had to. Anyway, next trip was back in again, and this time we didn't realise it was going to be for 4 months in the jungle. And we had to have rations dropped into us by air. And we sent up like orange balloons up through the trees, which were about over 200 feet tall, the bloody trees. And the plane would come along and see the orange balloon and drop the groceries into us. Anyway, we'd have to get them quick out of the pack, get them in our bergens, and get out of there quick because the terrorists would probably spot where their plane had dropped them. And then we carry on into the jungle and do those things again, chasing the bloody terrorists down. Eventually, we took, anyway, it's called a short, it's shortened up the story. We finished up in 1959, late 59, I think it was.
Wow.
And there was a surrender. We had the guy surrender to us. That was a terrorist, and he was Chinese. So our job was done. We got a ship back to England.
And how did that, Johnny, how did that affect you coming back? Did you go into silence? Did you not talk about stuff until you, which leads me to why you wrote your book?
No, I never talked about it. Yeah. I never spoke about it. And in front of my family even, I never told them. Yeah. I just told them it's and that's all.
And how did you deal with it mentally yourself? Because keeping a secret or doing something from loved ones, but there's stuff, I just want to bring in the stuff that you did and your childhood. You're amazing. I said the word is the same as lots of stories, but I suppose survival from your early birth was in your DNA. And you know what I mean? I think that's obviously even in your book, which is fantastic. So how did you deal with personally? Because I know you'd be protective of your family, I said, with silence.
Well, Michael was born, I said, he was about, when I came back out of the jungle, he was over a year old anyway. Way over, he was nearly 2. And I was in bed, Peg was in bed with me. And Michael climbed up on the bed when I was asleep in the house. And that was her mother's house that we were in. And And he climbed on the bed, and I woke up. I threw him off, and he hit the wall. Bang! He went tumbling down the stairs. And Christ, that was the reaction from the jungle. I could have killed him.
That was your reaction again because what you went through.
I thought I was being attacked.
Yes. Yep.
Because in the jungle, when I was I built an attack to sleep in at night in the jungle. A terrorist had come up behind my head at night, and I was looking away to catch him, and he took off. I didn't kill him. I didn't get him. But anyway, that was one of the reasons, that I threw Michael up in the air when it bang onto the bloody stairs and down the stairs he tumbled.
Yeah, I think that goes back to, we've spoken, I've been privileged to talk to you. I think that goes back to you don't realize when I use the word moral injury, but it's also a cousin of post-traumatic stress. And you just never know when that's going to come. And I find the guilt part is, as you were just alluding to there, is that you did that, but you normally wouldn't have done that. It was a reaction to what you went through. That's not, I can tell, that's not your nature. Yeah. Now, if I can just move on for a minute, because we're running out of time, but I want you to tell us, I'm fascinated with this book. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And to all our listeners here and all over the world, as you can see at the description of this, you can go on and have a look at Sean's book. But I think you bring in a lot. And I just want to go back to the very start of what we talked about is your mom was a very brave woman. And what I like more importantly is, and I've spoken to you, but even the book is the way you bring in, and I'm using the word again, but I mean, there was no duty of care back then. And we're showing some photographs there as we're talking in the industrial school, or whatever they called it. It's how, look at you. And I must say to you, if I don't mind just saying this, and my viewers would agree, is your birthday's coming up, and happy birthday for your 90th, but you don't look a day over 60.
Okay. I on my own teeth.
Yeah, I had 3 fillings, so you're doing better. But what I want to say to you is, like, what advice would you give people by telling their story? And more importantly is the fact that the SAS, the stuff that you've done, we're showing up some pictures there at the moment and you're in the plane and that. But did you enjoy it, or did you come back damaged from it, or was it a regret?
So I enjoyed it, and it was best time of my life with the boys. They made my time very well.
Wow.
I loved every minute. And I still love the guys. I keep in touch with, I used to keep in touch with, dead all of them nearly now. I think I'm the last one alive in the bloody group I was with, 7th Troop, B Squadron. And I remember Fred and I, on Penang Island, we went out there, we were released for a month, we could get a break. And Fred and I rented a boat off of this guy from Australia. He's from Australia. And we rented the boat off him. And we took off to Rat Island, which the Chinese used to leave the dead there, leave them there, and the rats used to eat the bloody bodies. That's the way they did with it, on Penang. So we were coming back from Penang Island, from the island on Penang, and there was a whirlpool developed. The water was whoosh, the big circle. And the boat went in, and Fred and I went in, and I got out. I got onto a rock, and Fred came past me, and I grabbed him by the hair, and I pulled him out the hair of his head, pulled him out of the bloody whirlpool. And the boat went off out the sea into the bloody China Sea somewhere, I think. I don't know. We didn't pay the guy for the boat either.
Good man. But Sean, do you know what? I've got to finish up the show, but I know my listeners and they can get more. But I'm in awe of you that you speak out the way you talk from when you came from, living in Limerick and eating hunger. I mean, you would obviously know what goody is, wouldn't you? We used to get that, yeah. If you were posh people, you got sugar on your goody. So you had to live through that. But look at everything you've done. And I really encourage people to read your book. But I'm going to ask you before we finish, and at the young age you are, coming up to your 90th, and happy birthday, and everyone will send in, is what advice would you give?
I would tell people, and it's the reason I started that book, was for my own children, it was their benefit. And to tell the young ones how bloody lucky they are with what they've got, rather than the way I was brought up, as what we had with. But to respect everybody around you.
And can I just ask Sean to come in and sit beside you for a second, please?
And Sean.
Your grandson. Sean, can I get you to come in? Sean, you're a lovely man. We've spoken, and with your granddad, he thinks the world of you, and I know you do, and bringing this together, it's lovely. So give me just a little bit. What do you think about your grandfather? Is he a pain in the ass, or is he all right?
No, I was actually spoiled growing up. I was born in Canada here from his daughter Karen, my mother, and my only worries growing up as a child was the food was what we're having for dinner, I guess. Not if we're having it. So I didn't know any other hardship rather than that. So we grew up with a really easy life, and I had him to thank for it. So he's a hero in our family's eyes.
Well, I think he's a hero in my eyes, and he's certainly a hero in our listeners' eyes. And I'm going to let you guys, Sean and Shoni, it's been an absolute pleasure. And you think I can talk, Shoni? You do a pretty good job talking to yourself.
So we need a 3-hour podcast, I think.
Yeah.
That's right. We'll have him on the next episode.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sean, and thank you to our listeners here in Australia and all over the world. And you want to see more, you can click on to More with Sean's and his book. It's on the description at the start. So I say from Australia, I'm looking forward to you on the next episode. Shoni, thank you so much.
I'll keep in touch, thanks. Marty.
Well, you can't get rid of me.
I've told everybody about it.
Thank you, Shoni. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thank you.
Cheerio. And good night.
Bye. Good night.